All right, well, welcome to the Kratos Elite podcast. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Victor, and welcome to Kratos Elite podcast. Yes. What's the Kratos Elite, Andrew?
So Kratos Elite started back in college. I was interior design major at Drexel University.
Mm-hmm.
And my final project, my senior year, was a year-long thesis project. And I decided to do a gym. So not just any gym, it was the Olympic Training Center in Philadelphia. I took over the Delaware River shipping container warehouses.
Yeah.
And basically what I did was I took the floor plan of 2 buildings, which had a courtyard in the middle, and I created an Olympic training center where it had every sort of like Olympic training facility and equipment that you can imagine for the Summer Olympics, because we don't have that on the East Coast. It's over, I believe, in Colorado.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really cool for us to have it here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where, you know, so many great athletes from Pennsylvania and New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, even down in Florida can come up and all coexist and help each other out before they go into altitude training.
So you started this kind of like idea as your project, and after that you turn it into something that is not in Philadelphia anymore. So we are coming to you from Linkhurst, New Jersey. This is a great place, just a few stops from New York. Super nice, super quiet. I lived in Linkhurst myself for, 6 or 7 years. That's cool. And who we are, why are we talking about this stuff? What are we gonna be talking about, right? Let's set the stage. Why we think the world requires another podcast, because kind of like 2 dudes talking shit about stuff.
Yeah,
that's everyone needs these days, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So my thought process of another podcast is just having a conversation with different professionals like yourself, me, a few of my other friends, colleagues that are in different fields, right? My vision is to have a library of different professions and professionals that can explain to kids and adults even that don't know what they want to get into or in between jobs. If you allow some sort of insight into what you do, how you got there, what you wish you learned in college, or if you didn't go to college, what you wish you learned on your process to getting where you are now, it would help the youth and other adults that are switching careers be able to be like, all right, that's the path I got to go on. This is what I would do. This is what I wouldn't do. And, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is what I would love to do. It just helps people. I think it's going to help people be able to really understand what it takes to get to whatever job they want, whether it's finance, owning a gym, or, IT, things like that.
Yeah. So generally, it's around fitness. Because I'm
and that too, yeah.
Yeah, you are a fitness professional. I'm a fitness enthusiast, and I love all things fitness. And some of my friends know that I have long desire to maybe one day open my own gym, or at least, be around the people, to help them in someone else's gym, like here, for example. And that's also my aspiration of talking about this stuff. Maybe. That would be fun. Let's imagine we're going to move in the years, and this podcast will blow up and become super popular. That those things would be, just the gems to, pull up, because it's a pilot. That's the first episode. Today, we're going to talk about something that, gets us some feedback. As always, feedback is welcome. Only good comments, mean comments go into dev null, and people will be banned from the fitness forever. Or, yes,
burpees forever.
Burpees, or, in the high rocks, there's a burpees broad jump that takes out of your soul when you're doing this. So don't be a mean person, be a nice person.
So actually, that's a good point. Let's start out with that. Talk to me more about high rocks, because I don't know much, and I'd love to kind of dive into that really quick before we get into CrossFit and all that good stuff. Part of the podcast is learning about other things, right? So I kind of want to know your insight on the allure of high rocks, what exactly it entails and all that stuff, because personally I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's because I don't like running.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to hear.
That's actually interesting point. Before we jump into this, it's a podcast. No one answers questions directly, so there's an opportunity for kind of explore some of the bits. Like you said on the very beginning, you said you don't like the high rocks because you hate running. before CrossFit, I hated CrossFit because everyone seems to be hating CrossFit because they're doing some weird shit like this, like butterfly pull-ups or this burpees over bar. And after that, now you need to, clean this bar or clean jerk it. So I was in traditional, what we call like bodybuilding, traditional, splits. You have like a shoulders, chest. You do legs. You do biceps, triceps, or you can mix and match. This type of routines. I always like to understand the not the physics, but kind of like the physiology of the exercising and how things working and like how nutrition affects the things. Since I started doing the bodybuilding for the purpose of improving my life, I developed some good habit going to gym. But very quickly, not very quickly, like I was in
Hashtag too.
Yeah.
That's your hashtag too on Instagram.
Yeah, go to gym. That's the hashtag. Thank you. So I was starting doing this bodybuilding. I quickly found that the best way to learn is to have someone who knows much better for you. So I hired a coach, Anton Antipov. He was my coach, and he's like IFBB pro bodybuilder, one of the first elite athletes in the men's physique division. He used to live in Brooklyn. We hang out there. He taught me about certain things about, most importantly, how to exercise. Yeah. And he was not like a conventional coach that will be going there and just counting my reps. He was teaching me things, how, I need to approach this from the mental perspective.
Well, bodybuilding is like an art.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's like I watch Arnold all the time, and the way he talks about it, that he says in his documentary, I forget what
Pumping Iron.
Yes, he talks about how it's like carving a sculpture.
Yeah.
And that every little thing leads to maybe a centimeter bigger on your right bicep, and you need maybe 1.5 inches on your left quad or whatever.
One of my favorite stories about Arnold, I never heard him saying this specifically, but I read this in some book. He was talking about is visualization. He called it visualization, but what we call it these days, it's mind-muscle connection. So the way how you think about your muscles, like when you do like biceps curl, you're thinking about them like, if you will be thinking about the biceps, your signals will go to biceps. So you'll have established better muscle, mind-muscle connection. And when you will thinking that how they grow, like literally you in your mind, you imagining how they grow. It sounds silly, but actually this is a very, deep neurological process that establish this connection. It's same thing that's like when you start exercising, everything, you feel tired, you don't want to do this because your body is smart, because your body doesn't want to do any work. It doesn't give a crap that you want to be like buff and big. So all these exercises, that's why people doing this with bad form, not because they, lack of knowledge or whatever, it's just the body tells them what to do easier. So it's easier to swing it rather than take the lighter weight and focus on your curl.
Yeah, of course.
So visualization or like mind-muscle connection, that was important. And a lot of things that when I was training with Anton, he taught me how to, approach this, like what the things, like what, it's better to maybe not count, but think about this. Okay, so I have a few more reps, like how much I can go till a failure, or I need to drop and do drop set. There's a lot of interesting things that we were doing together. The way how I learned about CrossFit, I just I watched the CrossFit movie. I think it was Redeemed and like CrossFit Games 2016 or 2015.
Golden years.
That was, yes, 100%. Hashtag golden years over CrossFit. Yeah, it was crazy. Like I was impressed about the way how the people look, what kind of stuff people performing.
Yep.
And I started learning things about CrossFit, like apart from watching the memes where the people falling from the pull-up bars and failing to do
backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Failing the double unders and the whip themselves with this stuff. I was like, okay, so I like that. I like this fronting dude or this Khalipa monster of human. Jason Khalipa is still always my favorite. Yeah, he's like, but like he's throwing some weights, but also like they're running. They do sprints. They do maybe longer runs, 5K.
I mean,
they do biking. They do rowing. I was like, what the hell? Like, what is going on there?
I forget what games. I want to say it was 2016. I don't remember.
I don't know if you could check the 333.
Yeah.
Devastating workout. That's the one that, the famous video of Rich Froning walking, because I believe he cramped up. And they had a long distance run in that too. I believe it was a 5K. After doing a 3,000 meter row, after doing 300 double unders. But CrossFit encompasses everything, which I think is why so many CrossFitters, no offense to High Rocks people, but find High Rocks a little bit
redeemed and dominant. I guess that's the second year of at Fraser. I think it was like second year of Fraser and second year of Tia. And after that, I went back. I watched the Fitness on Earth Decade of Fitness. It was like a 10-year anniversary of CrossFit Games. I even went to see some like old school Every Second Count. I don't know if you've seen this one. It was like they were recording this at the Castor's Ranch when like everyone just showed there, like a Chris Spiller was there. The first time when Kalipa went, that was 2000, maybe 12. I need to check this. Like, it's good that we have a Wikipedia and stuff over here. So I started looking this one, like say, okay, let me see what's around. And I started at the CrossFit Sim. It's not far. This is where I met you. You were doing coaching there. And I kind of sort of suck on this, like a big time. I hate it. Like,
well, you're tall, man.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I thought I was like in a good shape because I was doing like bodybuilding for a while. I thought I was in a good shape. Like, what the hell? Like this, like a wall balls, like throwing this ball in air. Like, and after that, I'm just like without the breath. Over the time, I stuck on it and I continue just go this because my mentality was, like, I cannot go until failure because, everyone will be looking at me. It's kind of embarrassing. And the CrossFit actually creates this mentality when you're focusing on the work and you really don't care about what other people, will think if you will, go the flat line and stuff like that. And I started learning methodology of the CrossFit, like why, we're doing certain things in certain way and the importance of high-intensity training. I started learning about aerobic capacity thing. So this is where I learned about the Chris Hinshaw. He was the coach, like aerobic coach for elite top podium athletes. The time, I think the Neil Maddox, he's the one also OGs, discovered him kind of sort of. And Neil Maddox was... I don't remember if he was the podium athlete that time, but he definitely was in top 10.
I think he was podium one. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so he has a gym in the North California. Yes, like not far from San Jose, and that's Kalipa. This also Kalipa in Palo Alto, and this is where the Kalipa learned about him, about Chris Hinshaw, and he started training. And this is the year where Kalipa was surprised everyone, like how come like a 230 pounds, like
he's a big guy,
like a 6.4 dude was able to run, row, and just annihilate weights. This after that where the Froning learned about him, and this is how I learned about him because I was following some of the Froning programming. And this is also came from the point where I was doing something that I was not comfortable with doing. Same with the CrossFit, because I suck on every exercise. I quickly figure out, like, okay, I need to break things now. Rower, I'm a tall dude. Why the shorter dudes are, beating me on the rower? I need to figure out, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm following this kind of like my body telling me how to do easier, but not necessarily right. And I went and followed this certain things about how to proper row with proper form. One of the things that I kind of like cracked how to do like climbing on the rope. Also, I found one of the videos when the Jason Kalipa explains how to do this with the J-hook properly. I start following some other athletes. Brent Fikowski was one of the athletes that I was following. Recently he announced he also like following him from all these movies and Professor, and follow some of his explanation of some of the exercises. I still use his technique for do the wall balls, kind of like focusing on the kind of like clean, helping to like it needs to be shown, demonstrated. Yes, the way how everything is happening with me in fitness, like I'm getting very uncomfortable and trying to be comfortable with something that I get into. So high rocks actually came into my picture when I meet few people
Recently, right?
Yeah, recently I learned this from a few folks. I was part of the 10,000, which is my favorite clothing brand. Not sponsored, but hey, you probably can be sponsored of this one. I am their ambassador, so like I'm part of the group for where we're trying to build a community of the people and actually learn about a few local folks. You have a few people in Jersey City, and they're running the run club. And one of the guy that I met there, Steve Servan, and he's in Montclair. And he was actually kind of start introducing me to the high rocks. And he was like, okay, so I'm just doing this like a high rocks thingy in my gym. If you want to drop in, I'll explain what is going on here. And I was like Googling, lots of running. I hate running. So, okay, probably I need to get better. And surprisingly, there's some of the like a functional fitness element there. And the cool thing about high rocks, from the point of, being the tall dude, it's actually, very good for me because it's a longer, maybe more endurance type of workout, under hour, ideally, if you are elite athlete, lots of running, but still there's some functional exercises. There's rowing, there's skiing, there's lunges, there's a burpee, broad jumps, there's like a farmer's carry. So a bunch of things that we're already doing in CrossFit.
Yeah, pretty regularly too.
I think one of the critiques, which is I'm personally not supporting critiques of CrossFit, is that the CrossFit is definitely dangerous, and everyone's just like, it's a freaking dangerous. You cannot do this because those exercises like a snatch is a high technical exercise and people can get hurt. What's your opinion about this? I'll give you a moment, and
I have a lot to say about
yeah.
I'm not gonna go too far into it.
No, I mean, we actually can, go into the point where we can, usual comparison. The CrossFit Games is not CrossFit. I learned this like weird stuff from the movie. I see these like a superheroes there, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. And the people saying it's dangerous. Like, oh, shoot.
Easy segue.
Yeah, exactly.
With that and what they're doing. But yeah, man, in short, I think that people who say that, one, probably hate on CrossFit, and two, there's like yes and no, right? I just had one of these conversations with my members where I was like, look, should you be doing an overhead squat at like your body weight in life? Probably you'll never be in that position where you have to overhead squat something your body weight. But the overhead squat is arguably one of the best squats you can do for your body. It has so many different benefits and like core stability work that you need for everyday life, right? Whether or not you should be 1 rep maxing that, probably not. You're not an Olympic lifter, but I do think that it has its place. And I think that it's very dangerous if the coach is not paying attention to the movement, and if the coach is not scaling like they tell you to do in the level 1 course, which no one listens to.
Yeah.
Right. So like, that you have to scale things. Because I see you all the time that you're like, hey, in class, like, Andrew, I'm not really comfortable with this. Can I scale this down? Yeah, sure. Right.
One of
Our training.
One of the things that people don't know, and this is the probably first thing that they teach in the CrossFit L1. I'm a L1 myself. You're probably L2.
Yeah, L2. Hopefully L3 at some point.
Yeah. I probably need to also, advance to L2 at some point. The CrossFit is about functional movements and executed with safety. Like one of the things that they teach in L1, first thing is safety.
PVC pipe all day.
Yeah. No, not necessarily PVC pipe all day. Like the way how you structure workout, the way how you structure class, you need to pay attention as a coach to safety of your members. Because first of all, yes, CrossFit is not to make you puke. Famous pukey clown was the symbol of the CrossFit for a while. Like, okay, so like if you're not puking after workout, you're not doing this right. Wrong. It's not right, because that's the way how you can. People might say this will become soft. That only OGs will doing this until you puke. But when you're trying to make this sport for masses, the safety would be one concern, and also inclusive environment in terms of age, abilities, physical, so different people have different goals in life. Different people have a different ways how they approach certain things. Some people like this for just hanging out with people, because CrossFit is a group exercise.
It's very much a social.
Yeah, it's a very social club. Yeah. Some people want to do just like a fitness part, kind of like, okay, so I'm here for a workout, just bye everyone. It's totally fine. But as a coach, you should be able to identify those individuals and approach them from these aspects. It's difficult for I guess for, when you're just at the beginning, that's okay. So I want to do this CrossFit. I heard this is good money because probably, people paying like from 150 to 200 for membership. It sounds like a good money. So I will want to go.
It's a whole other podcast, man.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna
That deserves its own episode.
Exactly. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. So in the one of the things that actually, everyone's saying, which is probably where I went into this route. Did notice in the very beginning, the CrossFit Games is not CrossFit. The things that you see in your local gyms is that the place where coaches and owners of the gym, they're trying to make you better person.
Yeah. Better
physically, mentally, faster. But the CrossFit Games,
whole different animal. And
you as a competing athlete, congratulations with your recent win. And what was the name of this competition?
Beetle Extravaganza. It was in Puerto Rico.
Nice.
Very nicely run competition.
And also you are the organizer of certain competitions, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm the organizer of the Vitruvian Games. That one is taking, well, I'm not going to say when yet, but
we're working on it
in the summer.
We're working on the summer.
Yeah. Probably going to be in the summer at some point in a very exciting venue. And, it makes you think about things a lot differently because you're right. CrossFit sport, yes, it's sort of CrossFit, but you're testing a whole another facet of fitness, right? You're not training for life at that point. You're training to compete for fitness, which is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good difference that you point out. Kind of like CrossFit makes you better person for life. That's why we take into account all these functional movements. Functional movements, it's a compound movement that involve not, you have isolation movements, but we started with like a biceps curl. But the CrossFit,
much for the beach.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that we can use it is just to look good on the beach. But the CrossFit makes you a better person for performing in life.
Yeah.
So that's why you're talking about this like overhead squat. When are you going to be doing? Probably never.
Very rare.
But a regular squat?
Or front squat. Amazing, right?
Yeah. Your stability.
You have to actually front squat, right? In a bear hug. Maybe you're doing a sandbag carry.
Yeah.
Sometimes your kid falls or something. You have to pick him up like that.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. You're deadlifting the child. You're picking up the child on the chest and you're squatting up.
Yeah. Wall balls. That's you throwing your child in the air.
And your kid.
Your wall balls. Like we're going to be talking about wall balls a lot. Or burpees. Everyone hates burpees. But if you
fall down,
how you wait.
That's a burpee.
That's a burpee. Exactly. Yeah. The way how you lift yourself up and stand up after fall, that's a burpee. So that's why it's important movement from perspective of engaging right mind muscle connection that I was started with, and your neural system always developing. You can develop new neurons, but you're also losing those new neurons. You can forgetting something if you're not exercising. Things becoming difficult for you. CrossFit allows you to perform certain exercises that will help you in life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yes, the movements we do in here may be dangerous, but again, I bring it back to the coaches, right? I've, not to my own horn, but I have very low injuries in this gym because I make sure people either drop the weight or I know every single athlete and what their threshold is, right? I may not tell that athlete that I know that, but if I see someone struggling, I'm like, dude, lower the weight.
Yeah.
I do this.
It can be even like one of the days.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily
like a newer athlete. Why would I have a new athlete do a 2,000 meter row? And the person's like fresh off the couch, never done CrossFit or any sort of fitness before. That makes absolutely no sense. Maybe I'll start them at a 500, see how they do with the 500, get their heart rate pumped a little bit, and then scale the rest of the workout, whatever is after that. But I think that, the gym owners and coaches need to hold themselves accountable so that we can stop that rapport of CrossFit is dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point where we also overlap with the High Rocks is that High Rocks takes kind of like an easier route. It's still competition. You still compete, and they take the same approach of the CrossFit. The CrossFit, when we pick up the fittest man on earth, people say, "Oh, probably triathletes are fittest people, or because they do what they do, biking, swimming, and running. Like one of the critiques that Glassman is always taking is saying, no, what if they need to, lift someone?
Barbell.
Yeah, they lift the person. Like it's not making them fit. And the way how the CrossFit approaches for evaluating the fittest, it's not best swimmer. And you have a background on swimming. It's not the best like track and field. I did some running when I was in university. Never went to very kind of like a semi-professional, but still was doing a lot of like the athletics on the running, track and field and stuff. Will the strongest, the one who can lift more weights, would be the fittest? No. The CrossFit approach is that you take all this hush-push of exercises, throw them in the bowl. People will be taking them out. They will be competing on particular exercises. And after that, at the end of the day 3 or 4, we do have a very good numbers in terms of who can do better, because someone with the good swimming background can win swim and run, and someone with the lifting background can win what's the max clean jerk.
Yeah.
What's mostly anticipated event that people are waiting.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, combine these numbers, and you will get a well-rounded athlete. That athlete can excel, or not excel at everything, but at least can demonstrate that he can perform quite well across the board.
Yeah.
That would be kind of like definition of the fittest on earth that we have in the CrossFit. So, are you excited for upcoming season? We have a Open coming in.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, me personally, I'm pretty excited because I think I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life in terms of, CrossFit competitive fitness. Endurance wise, I was much more fit in college because like you said, I had a swimming background, so I'm Division I all 4 years, and I could work out for hours, man. Like we used to swim like 3-4 miles a day. Like I could do
Like it's nothing.
yeah, so I'm used to that type of grind. But anyway, yes, I'm excited for the Open. The thing that makes me a little bit nervous is all the rumors that are going around, right? And that's one of the main reasons why, we're doing this podcast today, to talk about like the rumors. Yeah, all the rumors. It's always the shit talking that people are doing about, CrossFit, and, they're changing yet again. And I love CrossFit. Don't get me wrong. It's not bashing CrossFit. It's just a little frustrating from an affiliate owner's perspective, because there's that thing that we should definitely talk about, and then an athletic or an athlete perspective, right? So the rumor that I've heard is that they're going to go online. And Morning Talk Up, I think it was Morning Talk Up, that just came out with like a whole really nice Instagram post on the different rumors that there were. There's not going to be quarterfinals. There's not going to be semifinals. There might only be semifinals coming from the Open. And all this is, to me, I think this is my opinion. No one told me this, but I think that this is all like finance based, like the decisions, which makes sense. CrossFit takes on a big burden back in the day when it was like regionals. They had to pay for every single region. There was like, I think 6 or 7 in the United States alone. I think something like that. Financially, it makes sense for them to, do the Open and then the games.
Yeah. And that's how they run this today, because you have a kind of sanctional events that some organizations will be running, but they will, if someone will win, they'll get a ticket to kind of like.
Yeah, but CrossFit still wants control of it, right?
Yeah.
So that that's what I understand from it, where they want to be involved, but they don't want to be involved. So by that I mean they want to program the workouts, but they don't want the liability of spending the money to run the event.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. All right. I'm not arguing that.
And sponsors,
It's a whole
like the more defenders village and stuff like that.
Our competition this year was one day, and I was like, oh man, next year I don't know how we're gonna do it. But anyway,
so what's the ballpark to run event of the size of the, I don't know, regional? Let's start with regional, not talk about the quarterfinals and all this kind of.
Oh, volunteers, man. All of these people are volunteers, and hats off to everyone that volunteers. You guys are amazing humans. To my knowledge, they don't get paid, obviously, because term volunteer, you don't get paid, but
you still need to kind of like bring the sponsors you ideally need to, give this something like a package for athletes, kind of like bring someone who can provide equipment, kind of who provide the clothing, all this.
But the base starts with the volunteers, right? So you can have all that.
How many people?
Oof. Like ours, we had 60.
60.
And that's just for a small one-day competition. This year, I think we had 90 athletes or 80 something athletes. Wadapalooza has, I don't know, 1,000.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. The Wadapalooza is huge.
Yeah. And I remember when they first started, they were like little competition in Miami where, they had their mats like just laying out, and people were walking through the events.
Right.
Now it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like $70 to get in for one day.
Yeah.
The whole production. For that, you need
whole production. You have like a 4-day competition. They have different packages for people. I've been there like 2 years ago. If I would not get any kind of like the zip package to go to see the final events, I will not be able to get there because so many people, they get some priority for people who have like...
It's expensive. Like it is. It's something like that. You need permits, I'm sure, and all this other stuff, right?
Yes.
For mine, you just needed to rent a venue.
Yeah.
But like I said, the volunteers is the base because you can have all the sponsorships, you can have all the athlete packages, all the money to like get the best rigs, the coolest equipment that no one has seen before. But if you don't have the volunteers, which are also the judges, you can't run the event. And that's where I think my buddy Edward and Anthony and Jules, they are running the AFJ. They shout out to you guys. And they are trying to standardize judging, right? And making some sort of way that they can get compensated. I don't know in what way. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I think it's a great idea.
To have judges to be paid
in some way, shape, or form.
Do you need to do like certification before like what's your take on this? Because we've seen a lot of like complaints online.
That's what Hiller's
Andrew Hiller for. Shout out.
Doing great, man. It's
Great stuff. That he always watching our Batman of CrossFit, and some of the so the judges will be, and he understands that the judges are volunteers.
Yeah.
Some people will have understanding of CrossFit. Some people have a good understanding what needs to be done from their point of view. Should it be kind of like in soccer? You have a league, you have judges that are qualified to do this stuff. They get paid.
I think so. Camps are starting to do that. I don't know which camps. I'm not really going to pinpoint a specific camp, but they're starting to get these professional judges into their camps to judge them, because then they can say like, hey, look, we have an accredited judge that is part of this organization. They judge my athlete is good to go, right? Instead of having like Teddy over here who like can barely do a front squat correctly, saying, yeah, that's a good rep.
Yeah.
And no offense to people who volunteer for their affiliate to judge, right, athletes that are going on to semifinals and stuff, but I think that in order,
it's not only kind of like the bad judging can hurt the athlete that you're thinking that you might be helping, kind of like seeing that they did like a half-ass job, or maybe not half, like maybe like in each 5%, there's a little bit kind of like a little bit not below the parallel and stuff like that. It actually affects, how they would be, if they will be checked by the CrossFit HQ, if they need to send like video there and stuff like that. It's actually...
That's the thing, man.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Like, for example, the Open. Let's say, right, one of our topics, let's say that the Open goes completely online, right? And from the first stage of the Open, the first 3 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever they decide to do, recently it's been 3 weeks, how are you going to watch 40,000 videos?
Yep.
You have zero staff to do that. And if you do, their eyes are going to be bleeding by the third day.
Yeah. So that's why you need to have a volunteer.
So my concern, right, is that it's going back to the old school ways where it was just the Open. 5 weeks of the Open, back in like 2016 or whatever. Do your workout. You submit a score so that everyone can see. It's public. So people like Andrew Hiller, who's very good at catching no reps for the athletes that are like those bubble athletes. If you're, I don't know, number 60 in your region and someone is like bound to be kicked off or something from qualifying to sanctionals, whatever range they decide to do for those athletes, everyone can see it. And I think I still do
like
that.
in 2016, they didn't have videos to submit. Like you submit a score, they still did.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because I had to film a few for a buddy of mine, and she made it to regionals every single year, and like almost made it to the games. She always missed it, but they took it fairly seriously. The only thing is that I don't know how they're going to standardize that, because there's already been people in Dubai championships that have been caught cheating. There's the guy, I think 3 years ago, that put his video on a loop for double unders.
Like yeah, someone did this for lulz, like kind of like for fun.
Come on, bro.
But yeah.
Well, that's my one big concern about the Open going back to its normal format, where it's just the Open and then games.
Yeah.
Right. With no regionals, because that means, from an athlete's perspective, right, when you have the Open, it's going to make the Open that much more special, and which is very good for the sport, right? It's not very good for the affiliate.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason why it's not very good for the affiliate is because, like, now I'm putting on my affiliate owner hat. I have to set up the entire gym for that workout. I have to make heats. I had to cancel classes. I had to do all these different things to accommodate, my elite athletes, my athletes that just want to do the Open because they want to compare themselves to what they were last year. And then the people who, are just don't want to do the Open, they just want to do a good workout.
Yeah.
So how do I balance all of that?
Yeah.
Either way, I'm going to have to deal with that, but it's an added pressure knowing that I have to have the floor, the videos, the score sheets, the judges ready for those elite athletes who are trying to qualify for the next stage, which at this point would be the CrossFit Games if they decide to go with no sanctions.
That's kind of like weird, because it also create larger pool of athletes for CrossFit
It's a
Games.
massive pool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they would still crunch it down. There's different ways to qualify. Like, one year they tried national champions. That's also not fair. Like, no offense to any like small country, but what if a small country has like one CrossFit box and they don't have like that many weights, right? Okay, cool. You claim citizenship in that country and then you qualify to the games.
Yeah.
Where they tried that once, and the people who had those countries that were smaller and not too...
Or you kind of like moving to places where you can dominate, versus places where there's a big pool of like elite athletes, and you kind of like need to, for example,
like Australia, London.
Exactly. Yeah. And like all the like Australia, Oceania, like, or like Asia. I know that athletes from Russia back in the day, they need to compete like somewhere in China, like in order to. Yeah. He had to move to US, and now he kind of like competing because his residency and like not the citizenship, but the permanent residency in Tennessee and in Nashville. But also in Nashville, in Cookville, they have a big pool of like games athletes that will be competing them. It's like much harder. And it's also like, in my opinion, how they call it, it was sanctional events, and they usually happen in Tennessee, University of Tennessee. I'm not remembering. Mid something. So
MACC?
Yeah.
MacFest?
In the one that's kind of like before games, like who wants I will, it will come back. I'll probably will Google it. But for me, to watch this event is much cooler, because like you see so many kind of like the people that you follow maybe, and also, you can attend. It's not going to be like super expensive like across the games, but still you still can see good sport.
Those athletes. Yeah. And that's what, Think Tank Training came out with a really good podcast about this topic as well. Which is why I was like, dude, we got to start with this one. They made a very good point in saying that, it's going to take away not only from the athletes not being able to compete with those elite athletes. Let's say, I have, Max in gym, right? And he qualifies for semifinals. Now he's not going to be able to compete against Roman, against Guy. All these different athletes that are in our region, because they took it away. So in his mindset, he's like, why would I compete if I'm not going to qualify for semi and compete against them, just to have the opportunity to compete against them at a higher level? So one of the topics that Rich Froning came out with was that he was going to make, I don't know if you heard this, but he wanted to make a very exclusive competition at his gym that was only going to be mayhem only athletes. Winner, I think he said, takes 10 grand or something like that. I thought that was a very interesting idea.
And he has the capabilities to do this. They have a big gym. They have a lot of like a good pool of good coaches, not only volunteers who can, support this.
But even then, like you can have, I was thinking about this the other day when I heard Froning and then I heard Think Tank talk about, like, what if you had just the different camps throw like, a Mayhem Classic, Think Tank throwdown or whatever, where it had these elite athletes pick where they wanted to go. And then one spot could be allocated as a qualifying spot to the games. The only problem with that is that it would run into the same sanctional issues that happened a few years ago, where there'd be different tests, right? So there would have to be a standardized field of tests that tested the same things in a different format if they wanted to get unique about it. If they didn't want to get unique about it, everyone should come into a board meeting, vote on the workout, and everyone does the same exact workout, but they compete at different camps competitions, which I think would make the most sense if they decide to go with just the open-end CrossFit games.
Yeah.
Because then you can also monetize that if CrossFit would like to, and you're welcome CrossFit, if CrossFit would like to kind of oversee that and say that it's a licensed CrossFit event, which you have to pay for anyway. That way CrossFit may be able, and I don't know how this works from that perspective, but CrossFit may be able to charge some sort of fees for spectators and things like that. It's another monetary way they can go about it. I think that, not having a sanctional format is going to piss off a lot of the athletes. And it's not going to piss off.
What's the problem of like changing every year? Like I remember the times I was reading the Fronings's book, the way how different things were, like there was open, and after that he was go to regionals, after that he go into like semifinal, the quarterfinal, semifinal, and after that games. Like why change every year? Like why there's no structure on the very beginning?
Why is it bad or what?
No, like why there's no kind of like why it seems like every year they're changing this stuff. Something is changing. This is about like money. It's about of like popularity. There's too many people.
No, I think eventually it all boils down to money. I think, like I said, running regionals is very expensive for CrossFit. I think the only reason to like profit, and don't quote me on this because I'm not a finance expert by any means. This is something that I heard, I forget where, was the West region. And that's like where CrossFit started. So it makes sense. But I think that it keeps changing. One, because if you're an OG CrossFitter, you know that routine is the enemy, and they can just get away with it. They're like, oh, CrossFit, routine is the enemy. This is another change. Just get used to it. If you don't like it, don't do it. But on the flip side, people have gone away from that, and people like routine, right? They like to know, okay, I'm preparing for 3 weeks of competition in the open to qualify for quarters. I'm prepared to like train through open if you're an elite athlete and, qualify for quarters, train through quarters, qualify for semis, and then semis, that's when I'm going to peak or, with my coach or whatever, and then hopefully qualify for the games. I think from that perspective is why people are so annoyed about it. I mean, I'm kind of annoyed by it, but I also really don't care. Either way, I'm going to try my best.
You can be annoyed, but it's kind of like disagreeing committee. If you want to follow their structure, you have to follow their structure.
Yeah.
One of the concerns probably is kind of like how like elites would be affected with this, kind of like people who kind of like regular suspects there, people, the competing either like on the podium or like top 10 and things like that.
Well, it creates like an issue with sponsorships. I mean, think about it this way, right? Let's say you qualify for semis and you're sponsored by 10,000. If you don't qualify for semis, then they're like, what are you doing?
You lost your...
qualify for semis, and let's say the next 3 years you qualify for semis, and at that point you're like consistently doing it, and they change the structure on you, then you either are going to be screwed with your sponsorship, or 10,000 is not, going to be able to find new talents that they can add onto their roster, right? It'll be the same exact person every single year, right? Victor's going to be the face of 10,000 for the next 4 years because he's consistently at semifinals, and we just can't find new athletes, right? Let me rephrase what I was saying. That's if they take out the semifinals. if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. We'll see how it goes. Rumors are a very interesting thing to discuss. So that's why we're doing the the podcast to discuss all these kind of things. If you are have opinion about this, just let us know. Write down in the comments. Don't forget the subscribe. At least that's the first episode. We'll see how it goes. I still struggling to find this event that I was talking about. There's the North America West is the West Coast Classic.
Well, it used to be ECC.
What's the Syndicate Crown?
Is this sanctional for this region?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly. I think that's the one that happens in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, Knoxville. It's happened in the Knoxville.
So run something like that, it's an astronomical amount of coordination. I mean,
look, a lot of
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
And the cool thing is that, there are places that equipped to do this. Like there's university campuses, some, training centers. Like this one it's huge. It's beautiful. And,
well, a lot of convention centers, which are not cheap, by the way, they're like extremely expensive.
Yeah.
I would know because I tried hosting one last year at a convention center. It was crazy expensive, no way.
Because you need to rebuild a lot of things there.
Yeah, but you can't just rent out 10,000. Some of them will let you rent out 10,000 square feet, but what are you going to do with the rest? It's going to look very empty, because you can't just put a wall on the other 60,000 square feet or whatever. I mean, look at Masters Fitness Collective. They have a great competition. I went there myself to coach one of my athletes, and it was very well run. It was a beautiful stage, but it was in a very large venue, and it felt kind of empty, but there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with renting out such large venues. And
plus, you need to probably, in the convention centers, there's union, you need to pay them.
Oh, you got to pay the security, depending on the convention center.
Yeah, you're not doing stuff yourself.
Yeah.
You need to hire them to do this. And, since they need to lift heavyweights, they probably will also charge more. So that's fun. So yeah, that's the interesting take. So here's another thought that I think we don't see or we don't hear in the media that covers the CrossFit and stuff. What's the behind of running these big events? Even the organizations that are organizing this, usually they barely break even.
Yeah.
It's very risky stuff, and you screwed if something gonna happen. Like last year, unfortunately, accident happened. The Lazar Dukic drowned during the event one.
Rest in peace. Yeah, I mean,
terrible. Totally. Many experts can say that it's totally preventable. We never know. It's a professional sport. It is professional sport because like when you start making money out of the sport, it's a professional sport, right? So let's make no mistake. But same as a triathlon, like elite triathlon, like Ironman, people die there as well because that's professional sport. Unfortunate, it's terrible that this happens, but it's a part of the sport.
Yeah, and I think that also raises the conversation about why they're making this shift, maybe online only, because that kind of takes the liability.
Liabilities, exactly. Yes, there's one of the reasons, and there's lots of critique to again, we're saying that CrossFit is not CrossFit Games, and also CrossFit is not equals CrossFit HQ. There was a couple years ago when the fallout of Greg Glassman and kind of like a canceling Greg, which is totally also preventable if they would have good PR system in the crisis management and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's unfair to just like cancel a person like Greg Glassman. Maybe it's not the popular opinion, but I think every time people try to cancel Dave Castro, they don't understand what they're talking about, like how much this particular person invest in the sport and how much they did for the sport, and telling them the doing something wrong and it's their fault. It's unfair. That's also created negative drift in the fitness community, and when the people would like have opinions about like certain things that happened. And the CrossFit HQ also was shaken, so that's why kind of like he had to sell his shares to someone who was based on the investigation from the Savants podcast, we know that like that might be some of the attempts to do hostile takedown of the CrossFit. It's interesting. That's kind of like, it's a lot of interesting things to, to talk about in this podcast, like talking the CrossFit Elite Fitness.
Well, that's what I think like a lot of people have the most gripe with, right? From what I've heard from other affiliate owners and other elite athletes that are like in that, 0.01%. Like Brent has said, they've been voicing their opinions for years. There's one view. I'm not saying that I favor one over the other, but there's one view that says, it's a sport. Unfortunately, yes, that did happen. And, you still have to compete because that's your job, right? There's another side that says they should have stopped because it's completely ridiculous to continue after such a tragic event happened, right? People have different views on either one. Again, I'm not saying right one is the
F1, for example. F1.
Oh yeah,
people can die. People can get hurt big time. They're not stopping it.
Yeah, but I think what I was gonna say was I think the biggest gripe is that, for example, F1, they have emergency squads ready to go at all times.
Yeah.
Like if a car crashes, they're there within 10 seconds.
Yeah, but it's a different level of money, liability, and all those kind of things.
Correct. But like I was saying, the biggest gripe I think people have with what happened was that
it's totally preventable.
Not only that, but a professional group of lifeguards were not set in place.
Yes.
Which I agree with 100%. I've been a lifeguard. I've saved someone in the ocean before, like back in the day when they were in Santa Clara or swimming in the ocean, whatever.
In California, in the
tons of lifeguards.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Yes.
I remember watching Easy Muhammad. He was just like on his paddleboard,
Yeah.
But there was a lifeguard right there making sure that he was okay.
Even with this, the swimmers doing you do whatever records and all kind of things. There's people around on the boards, on their boat. Yeah. Yes. Even this, like in Ironman as well. Like there's still even this is a mess with the people fighting and stuff like that. It's a competition. That's what people come in to compete. They kind of like move their internal animals and let them,
from like a swimmer's perspective, I don't think they should have ever put open water swimming in any capacity at the CrossFit Games. I've swam in the ocean swim before. It's brutal. They will punch you, they will put you under the water, and they do not care. They'll kick you, whatever. In a pool, you have a lot of control.
Yes.
You can have 4 lifeguards, 2 lifeguards, and they'll be able to see everything because it's a controlled environment.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, and people might not like it, but people, I think that.
No, I think the swimming is a great thing. I agree about the open water though, kind of like
be indoors, man.
Indoor or somewhere.
It's controlled. It's a lot easier to manage. Like, I've been in swim meets in national level swim meets where there are 400, 500.
One of the things that they did, the 2021, I guess, they did the swim, and after that they need to get out, and after that do the skiers. So that was, cool, controlled, like the great event. Yeah, great event. Yeah, I loved it. And like the people who were come from the swimming background also excel there. Good test for athletes. Yeah, I agree.
Roman did well in that.
Yeah. It was a good. And also it was very interesting to watch, kind of like they have like a better covering. Everyone is, what the people are doing there, and like you can see everything. It's kind of like.
But you can leave those events, like the swimming events, all that stuff, to Wadapalooza. They do a very good job at making sure there's.
Wadapalooza, they also
ramp. I don't like that ramp. Sorry, Guido or anyone who's running Wadapalooza. That ramp is scary, but I've never been on it, but it looks pretty.
Yeah, they did this in also open water.
Yeah.
In the bay, kind of like it's because they're doing this in the Bayshore Park.
Well, not in Miami Beach.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
This year in Miami Beach. Interesting. Maybe I should go this year. I'll take.
But yeah, like circling back to the whole conversation about the rumors, I think that's one of the reasons why they're, hesitating on putting live events.
Yes.
The liability is really off of them because it is going to be a sanctioned event.
Yeah.
I would assume.
See, that's why we can't have nice things anymore. Ever has liability and lawyers everywhere, and like where this the mid hats can go and hang out, and the good old days of the CrossFit games where the Panda Express was sponsoring and people just like bashing beers and stuff like that. Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. How far sport went, and also overall quality of the athletes went. It's. I think I agree with you 100% in terms of that's kind of like a model of the CrossFit is a constant variability, and that's why the things are changing, and the athletes needs to adapt and stop being the wine.
Well, I mean, even in Puerto Rico, right? When I was competing, there was a few mishaps with the equipment, and they changed it, right? They changed the events on the fly, which was good. I think that they handled that very well because it seemed like they were prepared for something to happen, and they were like, "Look, this is plan A, B, C, and D," and the briefing team briefed us very well, and we adapted. Like they were like, "Yeah, you're not using sandbags, you're using barbells." I'm like, "Sweet, thank God, my back's not going to be blown up." So I think that having that type of system, like what you were saying earlier, where you have a plan A, B, C, and D, is needed in some sort of capacity, which I would think CrossFit really thinks about too much.
Yeah.
Because I think that one year there was a rope climb event that it was raining outside, so they didn't want to do it because they were nervous people were going to fall off the ropes slipping and stuff, so they just exited out the rope climbs. Instead of doing that, maybe they could have done like, I don't know, rope pulls or some other sort of
That's high rocks
pulling. Yeah, but it all lets up. So there has to be some sort of way that CrossFit can rely on the community more. That's what a lot of people are saying now, that they're like, what is CrossFit doing for me? Well, it's doing a lot, right? It's giving you a job, first of all. Second of all, I think that CrossFit should reach back out to the community and be like, hey, we do know that there are some big time competitions like Fittest of the Coast, Wadapalooza. Hopefully one day we can, Vitruvian Games can be something like that. At ECC back in the day, CrossFit Southie up in Boston, they run a very large, really good competition. You can use those competitions as qualifiers to the CrossFit Games, right? And then, like I said before, just have a big board meeting and then just figure out what the consistent testing.
One of the things that I think the CrossFit HQ kind of lost, to your point, is connection to community. Actually, the way how the popularity grew. People literally all over the world. I was listening some the trainers who were teaching this like L1 class, and the people like who've been there for years. The stories that they will tell, like they were going to places they've seen all sorts of gyms and how the people even abroad, but not anymore. It's kind of like already developed community where people kind of like organizing themselves already. But the cool thing about this, it's still like in the spirit of, so that's why, you can literally walk into every gym that says a CrossFit, or like even find this on the map at CrossFit.com. You expect same-ish level of
Starbucks, almost a consistent product.
Yeah, not like a Starbucks. I would say, something that will have like a franchise kind of.
Chipotle.
Yeah, Chipotle. Yeah, Chipotle, it's also like a corporate. Yeah. It's also kind of like write down in the comments if you think there's a better franchise for than like CrossFit. It's not a cult, but yeah, even though you can go, it's not. We're not doing any like a Masonic stuff. If you will go to any place,
sure. Yeah, that's very true.
You go to France, you go to Italy, you will have like gym where we have like this familiar equipment, the same movements, or if you kind of like you traveling and you have your own plan, that in this gym you'll find equipment that you need. You find the kettlebells, and you find the dumbbells, the barbells, rowers, bikes, the runners, all everything. So, do you want to wrap this up at least for our first episode? Do you have anything kind of like final thoughts to talk about? I think we covered a lot. And sorry for kind of like jumping around.
Loops.
The structure will follow, I would say.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I did want to predict was that at some point, I feel like Rogue Invitational is going to beat the CrossFit Games. Or Rogue is going to eventually just take over the CrossFit Games and then just do it themselves. Still have the Rogue Invitational because it's very special for the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to one of my buddies. Her boyfriend was just judging the Invitational, and we were talking about how I thought it was going to replace, and she made a good point that it's very special for the athletes. And for the spectators, it is too. It's an experience to see the top.
Yeah, that's why it's called invitational. They can bring like whoever. They have a good price because the Rogue is big.
$86,000.
It's a big enterprise. You know, they do not only the CrossFit, they also do strongman. They do some other like fitness related things with the
equipment.
With unique equipment.
That's why I think they're gonna take over the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, they have news.
Very well run. The media. Did you watch it this year?
Yeah,
the media was impeccable.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah. The funny thing is that they still kind of like inviting same the
Sean Wood.
Yeah, Sean Wood.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
They look, having him out as a games announcing booth was a bad mistake.
Yeah,
and just keep digging their grave. But yeah. That's my
everything started with this firing the media team back in 2017.
Yeah, but look at Savan now, right?
Yeah, the Savan with the Buttery Bros and stuff like that. Yeah,
and the Buttery Bros. Yeah.
So yeah. So what about the others like the Wodapalooza and stuff? We talk about Wodapalooza. Do you think they have ability to kind of like a step in and do bigger?
I think so, yeah. I think that what CrossFit tried to do, I think in 2020, I believe it was, or 2019, where they had the 2 opens in 1 year, which I did not like at all. I think that it's a very good test of fitness in the winter, like a main hub, now that they have the California one. I think the original Miami location, and I'm in a competition now in Miami Beach, I think that's a very good mid-season test for the elite athletes. Very good area for spectators to go in the winter and see these athletes. People that haven't seen them before go there and not have to go to the CrossFit Games if they can't. Because August is peak vacation time.
Right.
People visit family and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Wodapalooza could be a very nice stepping stone to the games as like an invite that, it's a path to the games. They need multiple paths. I think that's what they need to do. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is the good first episode. So we're gonna see when we're gonna try to do next one.
Next time hopefully, Victor, we can talk more about what you do outside of fitness, right? Because that's something that I want to dive into and actually understand a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah,
and we can talk.
And we can we'll bring more guests from our gym and from around the community.
Yeah.
Do not expect us to have like some stars, but hey, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. So that was how we call it. We call it Kratos Elite.
Kratos Elite Podcast. Yep.
Find us everywhere in internets and find us in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. Come by, stop by, drop in. We have a great place. We have a great equipment. Like our space is super spacious. Yeah. And the question to the audience: should we also do high rocks here?
Oh yeah. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe we'll start that up.
All right. That was Andrew.
Yeah. Victor, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks.